Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Podcast. Today is Monday, April 8th, 2019. A lot to catch up on today. College basketball, going to go over the women's game, pick tonight's title game. Baseball, basketball, hockey, MLB power rankings, best bet. It's all in front of me right now. Let's go. We'll start in college basketball. The women's national title game was a good one. Baylor over Notre Dame, 82-81. Notre Dame covers the 2-point spread. I thought Notre Dame would win this game outright, but I was wrong. Chloe Jackson had 26 for Baylor. She was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four, and deservingly so. Enrique Agambali had 31 to lead Notre Dame. Baylor deserved this. One loss all season long. Notre Dame, they put up a good fight. They had a good run there at the end of the fourth quarter, but they fell short. And both of these teams should be contenders next year as well. Now on to the men's side of things, where it's Texas Tech, it's Virginia. Virginia defeated Auburn 63-62 to get there, as Auburn blew the lead late, and Kyle Guy hit a big three to make it a 1-point game. Then Guy comes back, gets fouled on a three after the refs missed a double dribble. Guy hits all three free throws. Virginia survives. Then Texas Tech dominates Michigan State 61-51. Good for Chris Beard in that program for getting there. Matt Mooney was the star of this one, as he shot the lights out from three-point range. Jarrett Culver was not good in that game, but he has to be good tonight if Texas Tech wants to win. They have Mooney, they have Culver. And on the other side of Virginia, you have Guy, you have Jack Salt, you have Ty Jerome, you have DeAndre Hunter. You have a lot of guys on that team. Virginia's favorite one. I'm going to take Texas Tech to win this thing outright. It just feels like it's their year. They're playing hot. They've been the best team in the tournament so far. Chris Beard is the best coach perhaps in the country right now. I think he might win the title, and then he might say, see, I'm going to UCLA. But UCLA, we'll get to them in a second, but Tech really deserves this. They've been playing great. A lot of people doubted this team after they lost to West Virginia in the Big 12 tournament, but they rebounded very beautifully, and now I think they're on the verge of winning a championship. So give me Texas Tech over Virginia, 60-57. I think the most outstanding player is going to be Matt Mooney. Before I go over to baseball, UCLA, the front runner right now is Rick Barnes of Tennessee. That'd be a nice hire. It'd be a better hire than Jamie Dixon would have been, in my opinion, because I think Barnes has revitalized his career in Tennessee. And now I think he's majorly in play for that job, although I have a funny feeling that it's smoke and that Chris Beard is going to end up being the coach there. It's just my prediction, but we'll see. Now on to baseball. I'm just going to do scores. Yankees over Orioles 15-3. Yankees sweep Baltimore. Phillies over the Twins 2-1. Good win for Philly. Tigers over the Royals 3-1. Tigers are a huge surprise early on. Indians over the Blue Jays 3-1. Nats over the Mets 12-9. Braves over the Marlins 4-3. Pirates over the Reds 7-5. There was a big brawl in that game after Derek Dietrich homered. Archer threw behind Dietrich. That caused the benches to clear. Yasiel Puig was among those players ejected from the game. Brewers over the Cubs 4-2. Astros over the A's 9-8. Mariners over the White Sox 12-5. Cardinals over the Padres 4-1. Rays over the Giants 3-0. Angels over the Rangers 7-2. Red Sox over the Diamondbacks 1-0. And Dodgers over the Rockies 12-6 on Sunday Night Baseball. Today we have two matinee games. White Sox hosting the Rays, featuring Blake Snell and Carlos Rodon. And the Pirates and the Cubs. Cubs home opener, John Lester and Jameson Taillon. 7 o'clock, ESPN, Yankees Astros, ALCS preview. I'd be surprised if this wasn't the ALCS. They're the best two teams in the American League on paper. Masahiro Tanaka, Justin Verlander. Tanaka's been better than Verlander this year so far, but part of me thinks that won't be the case here. The Astros tend to thrive against Masahiro Tanaka, and Verlander always thrives against the Yankees. So this, to me, screams 6-1 Astros victory. It would be the worst loss the Yankees have had from a margin of run standpoint of the season. So give me 6-1 Astros. and it won't even feel that close. Athletics, Orioles, Marco Estrada and Andrew Kashner. Nats, Phillies, Anibal Sanchez, Vince Velasquez. Dodgers, Cardinals at 7:45. Hajian Ryu and Miles Mikolas. 8:15, Mariners, Royals. Felix Hernandez and Homer Bailey. Braves, Rockies at 8:40. Julio Teheran and Kyle Freeland. Padres, Giants at 9:45. Eric Lauer and Madison Bumgarner. And 10 o'clock, Brewers, Angels. Julius Chassin and Trevor Cahill. NBA. Just going to do the scores. Knicks over the Wizards, 113-110. Knicks clinched the worst record already, so it makes sense that they actually try to win, especially in front of their home fans. Raptors over the Heat, 117-109 in overtime. Spurs over the Cavs, 112-90. Thunder over the Timberwolves, 132-126. Hornets over the Pistons, 104-91. Nets over the Pacers, 108-96 to clinch a playoff spot. Mavericks over the Grizzlies, 129-127 in overtime. Rockets over the Suns, 149-113. Bucks over the Hawks, 115-105. Magic over the Celtics, 116-108 to clinch a playoff spot. Warriors over the Clippers, 131-104. Blazers over the Nuggets, 115-108. Pelicans over the Kings, 133-129. And Lakers over the Jazz, 113-109. No games tonight due to the college basketball national title game. Standings right now. Milwaukee clinched the best record. Your 2 seeds, Toronto. 3's Philly. Boston's locked in the 4th. Indiana's locked in the 5th. So that's going to be a first-round series. 6 and 7, Brooklyn, Orlando, in that order. And then 8's up for grabs. Detroit's currently 1 game ahead of Charlotte and Miami. It's amazing Charlotte's still in this, to me. I think ultimately Detroit gets it. They're the best team of those 3. And if the season were to end today, they play the Bucks. Toronto would play Orlando. Brooklyn would play Philly. And then obviously Boston and Indiana are playing each other. West, Golden State has that locked up at 56-24. Denver's second at 53-27. Houston's third, 53-28. They are a half game back of Denver, so that could flip. Portland's fourth at 51-29. I think they're locked there. Utah's locked in fifth, 49-31. 6 through 8 are up for grabs. OKC 47-33. San Antonio and the Clippers each at 47-34. San Antonio 7th, Clippers 8th. If the playoffs started today, it'd be Clippers, Golden State, Denver, San Antonio, OKC, Houston. A lot of people would love OKC, Houston. I think that's the best series of the first round because obviously James Harden against his former team. And then Portland, Utah, I think is a lock in the West. The NHL season has come to a close. And the results from the last day of the season from Saturday, Lightning over the Bruins 6-3. That's 60 wins for Tampa. Ties the record for most wins in the regular season in NHL history from a single season perspective. Blues over the Canucks 3-2 in a shootout. Canadians over the Maple Leafs 6-5 in a shootout. Blue Jackets over the Senators 6-2. Sabres over the Red Wings 7-1. Devils over the Panthers 4-3 in overtime. Hurricanes over the Flyers 4-3. Islanders over the Capitals 3-0. Predators over the Blackhawks 5-2. Stars over the Wild 3-0. Oilers over the Flames 3-1. Jets over the Coyotes 4-2. Kings over the Golden Knights 5-2. And Sharks over the Avalanche 5-2. Your playoff matchups. In the East, Tampa Bay against Columbus. Washington against Carolina. Boston against Toronto. And Islanders against the Penguins. In the West, you have Calgary against Colorado, Dallas against Nashville, St. Louis and Winnipeg, and San Jose against Vegas. I'm going to do a special NHL predictions series of podcasts. Part 1 is going to be me predicting the first round series and the rest of the playoffs, as well as giving out my regular season awards. Part 2, I'm going to have ESPN's John Buchacross on to help set up and preview the playoffs with me, and then we'll pick series, and he'll go over his award picks for the end of the season, as well as go over some other NHL news. And then I'm going to have a good friend on the podcast talking about the NHL playoffs and some other random things as well. Now I want to talk about some NHL news around the league. Florida fires Bob Boughner, who was fired Sunday after 2 seasons, and Florida hires Joel Quenneville to replace him. This made sense from the get-go. Dale Taillon is the GM there in Florida, and they obviously work together in Chicago. This is a good hire. And now everybody and their brother thinks that they're the favorites to sign Artemi Panarin and Sergei Bobrovsky because of shrewd moves they made to clear cap space. There's obviously ties there too. Panarin played for Quenneville in Chicago, and Bobrovsky was the goalie in Philly, and Chris Pronger's the assistant GM to Taillon, and Pronger and Bobrovsky played together in Philly. So I think they are the favorites to sign those 2 players. Bobrovsky, I think, is the more important piece that I think that the Panthers have to get. Panarin, I don't think it's a lock he goes there, but I think it's fair to say that the Panthers are the front runners for his services as well. I discussed the Rangers, Glenn Sather stepping down as president of the team, and the fact that I think John Davidson is the runaway front runner to replace him because of obvious ties in the organization. He obviously played for the Rangers. He was a beloved broadcaster for the Rangers as well, so that would make a ton of sense. I think Steve Yzerman is Detroit bound. I've been discussing that on the podcast probably since October. The Buffalo Sabres fired Phil Housey after 2 seasons. That doesn't surprise me because they didn't make the playoffs and that team's dysfunctional, and they tend to fire coaches every couple years too, just like Florida and just like Ottawa, and I'll get to Ottawa in a minute. And the front runners for Buffalo's job, I think Alain Vigneault has to be in play there. I could see him linked there. Some other guys I could see, like if John Tortorella and the Blue Jackets flame out in round 1, I could see Davidson leaving there to go to the Rangers. Columbus hiring somebody different to replace Davidson, and then they fire Tortorella, and then Tortorella can go to Buffalo. I could see that. I think Tortorella would fit wonderful with the Sabres. Another one that happened a lot back further in the season, obviously, was Ottawa firing Guy Boucher, and there's some chatter already that Bob Boughner could be a front runner for that head coaching position. The Kings got rid of Willie Desjardins, their intern head coach, so they'll be coach hunting. I don't think Bobby Murray's going to be behind the bench next year in Anaheim, so he'll resume his GM duties. So they're obviously going to have an opening. So there's so many coach openings right now. So obviously you have Buffalo, you have Florida, you have Ottawa. I think Claude Julien saved his job even though they missed the playoffs. In the Metro Division, you have Philly open. I think New Jersey can open. In the Central Division, I don't know, Chicago's intern coach will be back. So that's another open job. If St. Louis flames out early, Craig Berube might lose his intern tag, and they could be coach hunting. Another one that's a possibility to me that could open up potentially is Edmonton, because I think Keith Hitchcock isn't a lock to be their coach next year. That organization's just a mess. So I wouldn't rule out a new coach being there as well. And we'll discuss all this as future podcasts go along, and obviously with my guests on the podcast coming up once we talk NHL playoffs and whatnot. We'll get into that. Now I'm going to do my power rankings for baseball. I'm going to go from 30 to 1. And there's going to be no theme this week, just straight power rankings. 30 is the Royals, 29 Reds, 28 Giants, 27 Blue Jays, 26 White Sox, 25 Marlins, 24 Orioles, 23 Cubs, 22 Red Sox, 21 Rockies, 20 Angels, 19 Rangers, 18 Diamondbacks, 17 Tigers, 16 Padres, 15 Athletics, 14 Pirates, 13 Twins, 12 Indians, 11 Cardinals, 10 Nationals, 9 Braves, 8 Mets, 7 Yankees, 6 Astros, 5 Rays, 4 Phillies, 3 Mariners, 2 Brewers, 1 Dodgers. My players of the week, kind of obvious. They're the 2 leading home run men in the American League and National League, respectively. In the AL, Gary Sanchez of the Yankees, and the NL, Cody Bellinger of the Dodgers. Now I'm going to do my best bet of the day, brought to you by DraftKings. There wasn't many options to choose from, considering that the NHL regular season's done and there's no NBA games tonight. So I chose a couple baseball games and threw Texas Tech in there as well to make my payout bigger. So along with Texas Tech, I took Tampa Bay, the Cubs, Oakland, Houston, Rockies, Giants, Brewers. About 97.5 to 1 odds. Wagered $1 with a payout of $98.51. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back tomorrow recapping the national title game. I will be doing NBA and baseball talk. Maybe we'll do an activity as well. And obviously my best bet for tomorrow as well. Tonight I might have a special podcast, gambling podcast with a buddy of mine coming up. And then my part 1 of the NHL playoff preview, which is myself doing my predictions and whatnot. And then part 2 is going to be John Butchercross. And then part 3 is going to be my buddy Derek. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.